Today, we're diving into some fascinating material from Harvard Health. It confirms something people have, well, basically always known, right? This incredibly close, sometimes kind of chaotic relationship between our feelings and our digestion. I mean, we use the language all the time, don't we? You get a gut feeling or those butterflies before something big. We even talk about gut-wrenching news. And it turns out these aren't just, metaphors. They describe real physical things happening. Okay, let's unpack this. Why is our stomach often the first place we feel stressed out?
Yeah, that's exactly what we want to get into. Moving beyond just saying stress affects your stomach to understanding the how. What's really interesting is that the GI tract, your gut, is essentially hardwired to react to emotions. Things like anger, anxiety, sadness, even, intense joy. Our sources really emphasize this. It's a two-way street, biologically speaking. A superhighway, really, not just a random side effect.
Okay, so let's lay out that basic structure then, this two-way street idea. I think we all kind of intuitively get the brain to gut part, like you're nervous, your stomach feels tight, or even just thinking about food can make your stomach start prepping, releasing juices.
Exactly. That's the brain sending signals down. But the reverse is just as important. The gut sends signals up to the brain. And to really grasp this, you need to understand that you essentially have, well, two brains.
Two brains. Okay, hang on. That sounds a bit sci-fi.
Yeah, it does sound dramatic, I know. But it's a common way to describe it. You have the main brain, the central nervous system, okay? And then you have what's called the enteric nervous system, the ENS. It's this huge, complex web of nerves lining your entire digestive tract.
Enteric nervous system.
Okay, and this ENS, it's often called the second brain. It has hundreds of millions of neurons. That's actually more than your entire spinal cord. It manages local gut functions, movement, secretions, blood flow, pretty much on its own. It's got a lot of autonomy.
But it's not totally independent. It talks to the main brain.
Constantly. That's the key. While it runs its own show locally, it's always communicating with the central nervous system.
So how does that communication happen so fast? Like I get bad news and boom, I feel sick. What's the connection, the actual wire?
Ah, that would be the vagus nerve. Think of it like a massive bundle of fiber optic cables. It's the main information highway connecting the gut's brain, the ENS, and the brain in your head. Something like 90% of the nerve signals between your body and brain travel along this nerve.
90%, wow.
Yeah. It carries signals about everything: hunger, fullness, pain, and definitely stress back and forth at high speed.
So if the vagus nerve is the highway, stress is like a sudden traffic jam that backs everything up, starting in the stomach.
That's a great analogy, actually, yes. And because of this constant high-speed communication loop, it gets really tricky to figure out what's causing what, especially with chronic gut problems.
Right. The source is really hammered this point. Your stomach issues could be causing the anxiety, or they could be the result of the stress or depression you're already feeling. They feed each other because they're just so tightly connected.
Absolutely critical point, especially when doctors are looking at what we now call disorders of gut-brain interaction. These used to be called functional GI disorders, things like IBS, irritable bowel syndrome. Basically, conditions where you have ongoing gut upset pain, bloating, changes in bowel habits, but there's no obvious physical damage like an ulcer or inflammation to explain it.
And that's where people often hear, we can't find anything wrong, which can translate to, it's all in your head, which, let's be honest, can feel really dismissive if you're the one in pain. But here's where it gets really interesting. The research is crystal clear. These conditions are not imaginary. They aren't just feelings. They're real physical issues driven by actual physiological changes.
Exactly. We really need to shift that thinking. Psychological factors aren't just causing some vague bad feeling. Things like stress, depression, chronic anxiety, they physically influence the gut's physiology. It's a tangible chain reaction involving chemicals and nerves.
Okay, so how does that work physically? What is stress actually doing to the, mechanics of the gut?
Well, one of the main things we see is disruption to motility. That's the movement and contractions of the gut muscles. When your brain senses stress, it triggers the release of stress hormones, primarily cortisol. These hormones travel through the bloodstream, sure, but they also signal down that vagus nerve highway. And this messes with the delicate balance of neurotransmitters right there in the gut lining.
Neurotransmitters.
What's that?
It's like the brain chemicals in the gut.
Precisely. And here's a mind-blowing fact. Your gut is a major producer of these chemicals, especially serotonin. An incredible 90% of your body's serotonin, the stuff linked to mood and happiness in your brain, is actually made in your gut.
90%, that's huge.
It's massive. So when stress hormones flood the system, they disrupt the production and function of serotonin and other neurotransmitters in the gut. And that directly affects how the muscles in your GI tract contract and move things along. It can speed things up, causing diarrhea, or slow things way down, leading to constipation.
So stress isn't just a feeling that coincides with gut problems. It's literally hijacking the chemical control panel that runs your digestion.
Hmm.
And on top of that physical disruption, the sources mention something else that makes it worse: heightened pain perception.
Yes, this is a really big piece of the puzzle for these disorders of gut-brain interaction.
Mm.
It seems many people with conditions like IBS actually perceive pain signals from their gut more intensely than other people.
Like their internal volume knob for pain is turned way up.
That's a perfect way to put it. Their brains are just more responsive, more sensitive to the signals coming up from the GI tract via the vagus nerve.
So that superhighway is almost too sensitive, too efficient at transmitting pain.
You could say that. The threshold for what feels painful is lower. So a normal gut contraction, something you or I might not even notice, can feel genuinely painful to someone with this heightened sensitivity.
Okay, I see.
And then you layer stress on top of that existing sensitivity. The psychological stress acts like an amplifier, making that already painful sensation feel even more intense. It's a vicious cycle. Pain causes stress, stress amplifies pain.
That makes so much sense. It's not just one thing, it's the combination.
Exactly. And connecting this back to the bigger picture, understanding this physiology has really changed how we think about treatment. What's fascinating here is, well, if we accept that the gut symptoms can be a real physical result of a psychological state, like stress or anxiety, then it just makes logical sense that treating the psychological side should help the physical symptoms, right?
And the evidence actually backs that up strongly, doesn't it? The research we looked at cited multiple studies showing that psychological therapies, things aimed at reducing stress, managing anxiety, treating depression, they lead to significantly better improvement in digestive symptoms, better than just using standard medical treatments focused only on the gut.
That's right. It's not a minor effect either. Addressing the brain, calming the stress response, often leads to substantial, long-lasting relief in the gut.
So for you listening, the big takeaway here is to recognize that some common gut issues might be red flags for this connection. We're talking about things like persistent heartburn that doesn't respond well to antacids, or ongoing abdominal cramps, maybe chronic loose stools or constipation that comes and goes with stress levels.
Yeah, if you're dealing with those kinds of persistent symptoms, the actionable advice is definitely talk to your doctor about the whole picture. Include the stress and emotional factors. You really need a holistic approach. Just treating the symptom like popping pills for heartburn or cramps might give temporary relief, but it's not addressing the root cause if that cause is stress disrupting the gut-brain communication. Finding strategies to manage the stressors, maybe through lifestyle changes like diet or exercise, mindfulness practices, or even talking to a therapist, it's just as crucial as any gut-specific medication. It's about calming that whole vagus nerve highway system.
So what does this all mean? It means that gut feeling is profoundly real. The gut-brain connection isn't just metaphorical, it's deeply physical, chemical, and it runs in both directions with incredible power. And often the most effective path to easing those frustrating chronic gut problems might actually involve focusing on the mind, treating the stress or anxiety that's literally messing with the physical workings of your second brain.
And maybe a final thought for you to chew on, based on everything we've discussed. If stress can so directly impact the physical movements, the contractions, the very chemistry, like serotonin levels, in your gut, it really forces you to ask, when you're facing persistent digestive issues without a clear structural cause, are you genuinely tackling the origin of the distress? Or are you perhaps just medicating the physical downstream symptom of an underlying unaddressed psychological state? Recognizing that difference could be the key step toward finding real, lasting relief.